Been outside for the day. You've had some meetings as always. You're always busy, and you've been doing what you need to do out and about. But I'm really thankful for you joining us this afternoon for a little bit. How is the atmosphere out there? Because it does look like all the fans are out again. The atmosphere is growing, and it's another great championship day.
Well, in the vicinity of the start-finish, the finish line where we are here, it's nearly impossible to have a conversation with somebody because the drums are going, the atmosphere, it's loud, and it's impossible to have a conversation, or you have to use your voice. Normally I lose my voice when I'm commentating hours and hours, but when you're out and about here and wander around the finish line, if you're trying to talk to somebody, you actually have to yell at them because everybody's so excited, everybody's smiling, happy, dancing. So the atmosphere is absolutely unbelievable out there. I'm really happy to be tuning into this men's under-23 road race for a little bit. And they'll be racing 11 laps of this circuit, the same as the elite women will race tomorrow. And me, myself, well, I've been out there on a bike, and it is a tougher course than it looks on TV or on a profile or piece of paper. It's got beautifully smooth roads, been resurfaced especially for this championship, and then it's got that very, very, very hard cobble climb coming into the finish. So it's technically a difficult course for these riders, especially over the distance might be a little bit shorter than they do in other races, but here at the World Championships in Rwanda, this will certainly be a super taxing race, which begs the question of Belgium. They have got the clear favourite in the race, and they have dominated the front of the race from the start. Big question is, at this point of the race, with 83 kilometres to go, have they burnt matches too early? That's the only question. But they have, I mean, they look pretty relaxed, sitting in a line, and they've had one teammate just do a huge, huge job. So it looks like everything's going to plan, and they look confident coming in as race leaders and taking control of the race. Let's hope all of their riders manage with the climate here and the distance of the race. So on this part of the circuit, the other day I had to stop and have a breather myself. I sat down and I had a couple of the organising committee come and ask me, "Oh, would you like us to get a doctor for you?" And I said, "No, I'm all right. I'm just having a little rest, and I'm waiting for the Australian team to come by, and I'm going to say hello to a few friends." And we got chatting, and the locals here are just so enthusiastic about cycling. It's incredible. Everyone you speak to, they're so happy to have the World Championships here, and they want to be helpful. They're actually wearing T-shirts that say, "Please ask me," and it's written right across their back. So it's just to give you a little bit of perspective, if you haven't been able to make it to this year's World Championships, it's probably something we've never experienced before in terms of the organisation. So the UCI here at the World Championships have been very, very particular about riders using these cars as a way back to the peloton, particularly more than in other races. So riders have to be very, very careful if they go back to the team car not to use any slipstream assistance from the follow vehicles. So even though Belgium have been dominating for their race favourite, you can just see in the body language that there's not really that many other riders that are not labouring and moving their shoulders and swaying side to side any more than they are, so they look like they have things in control at this point of the race. Oh, an attack coming now from the Italian. Oh, Belgium are really, really demonstrating that it's their job to...
So Rochelle, two riders making their move now. This is the Italian rider who's been quite making a move at times, Matteo, and scoofs the Belgian. So the Belgian team have been riding on the front so much of today.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can see that, you know, they put a rider to cover an attack. They had a rider protected that was, you know, it's your job, you go and cover that attack. But at the same time, they're still chasing, even though they've got a rider in the breakaway. They're still chasing, so they've put all their cards on Wilder, their #1 rider for today.
But the fact that they've been riding all day and they believe in Jarno Wiedar today, do you think it's the right thing to do when we see a team like this who've basically ridden on the front of this peloton for, well, now approaching, what, 60-odd kilometres, 70 kilometres, and one rider in that team has done the majority of the work? Big attack again as another move starts to happen. Why do you think Belgium want to ride like that all day?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very big question. I had a glimpse of the screen when I was having a meeting with one of the ex-presidents of the UCI in the VIP box, and all you could see is blue on the front all the time.
Yeah.
And I did ask the question, I said, do you think they're doing a little bit too much too soon? Because that's the big question. You know, now they all need to take a breather now, and there's still 80 kilometres left to go in this race, so that is a really big question. The tactic obviously was to keep the pace high to neutralise attacks until Wiedar's going to make a big move at some point. But just keep him protected, keep the pace high, and keep this race together until he's ready to go.
But we've seen teams do this before. I mean, the biggest example of this happening was Mark Cavendish in his World Championship victory, wasn't it? He was looked after all day, and he managed to win the title. But we've seen it happen in other races where Great Britain tried to control the Olympic Games and then they didn't win anything. And so it's a risky strategy to put all your team on the front like that.
Yeah, it definitely is. But like you referred to the win of Mark Cavendish, is that it also puts more pressure on you. And it's a good pressure where you say, OK, my teammates, they've done every single thing possible today. All I need to do is finish it off. So it adds more pressure when you've got a complete team like this. You can see Belgium is still back to the front, keep the pace high, neutralise those attacks, and wait for Wiedar to make his move. But when your team does everything they're supposed to do, you feel like, OK, I've got that pressure on me, but they've done everything. I've just got to finish it off. Perfect.
Yeah, so it's good for him then, and he does look comfortable. He's looked like he's had one problem today, where he had to come back into the race, and he was paced back by Camille Eamon, who brought him back into the race really nicely. But apart from that, he's had a pretty much an armchair ride, although it's quite hard to say he's an armchair ride around this course. Whilst you've been out and about, what are people saying about the course itself? Are you getting any sense of how hard it really is out there?
A lot harder than anybody anticipated before actually coming, and not even saying riding it, but riding it at race pace over race distance. So if you look at it on paper, or you ride a lap, or you study the science of road surface, or all the technicalities and the scientific elements, the climate, all that kind of thing. The thing is that it's just so many different challenges here that riders need to deal with that they can underestimate unless they've done a full race of 164.6 kilometres, 11 laps at race pace, to know if, like you mentioned it earlier, that a lot of riders rely on their power data.
Yes.
But they can't hit those datas here because they're at altitude and they've got really thick air to breathe in. And the cobbles are obviously taking a lot out of the riders as well. That's the toughest part of the course. So, yeah, I think the course has not been underestimated.
And now that we've seen the pattern of this racing going on, and tomorrow we'll be together for the women's race, how do you think it's going to impact on the elite races? Because they'll be watching this, won't they? There's a lot of elite riders watching this racing right now as we see an attack from Poland. How will it impact that women's race tomorrow, potentially, as Pomorski goes off the front? He's been on the attack already today, right at the beginning of the race. can you see that we'll see just a peloton like this? Can you see attacks happening? How do you see that women's race will be impacted by the course, the terrain, and what we're going to see?
Well, it's interesting because I think now that they've seen it, and I've seen out on the course myself, riders like MWIREBERE doing laps at full race pace behind a motorbike, that there might be a chance that it's a non-eventful race because they're worried about the attrition, and it only takes a split moment to be dropped and the race is over here. It's not easy to get back because even the flat section, they're not flat. It's a very up and down technical corners and obviously the 2 climbs. So it's possible that after what they're watching that we might just see an attritional race until the last couple of laps.
It looks like that's what's happening in this race as well, where we saw an initial attack, then riders literally came from the front group and got dropped immediately as more riders drop out of the race at this point. And they've done, what, 90 kilometres nearly of this World Championship. This is Lee Yu. We saw him hanging at the back for a long, long time today. And again, the Belgian team take control and make sure that the tempo is how Jarno Wiedaert wants it. Luc Valenti of Canada was just being distanced. Rochelle, we always say about World Championships, if we haven't talked about you and we haven't seen you, then it's probably a good thing.
Absolutely. More so in a sprint race, because you will, like you said, Wiedaert had to cover an attack, because if there's a rider that his teammates are not strong enough to cover, he will need to make that move himself. But this is a course where being protected is maybe a little bit less significant than on a long open road. You know, you roll along for 50 kilometres and you can be super protected, because you need to look after yourself on this course as well.
So you have to measure your energy, make sure you're not going over your limit, sit in the right place, not let people open gaps and everything.
Their teammates, I think, are very important for... I've seen the locals out here, always with a football, soccer, playing soccer. A couple of in the lobby, just they're amazing. They're young children.
In the lobby?
Yeah.
Really?
The young children, what they can do with a soccer ball, it's just, I sit there memorising, I'm just amazed.
That is... One thing that I think is giving everybody a lot of joy. I noticed Kasia Niewiadoma was posting that she just finds the kids around here incredible, and the way that they run and they play football, and they just love the whole sports element of what goes on in this particular area. 30k an hour, Belgium still on the front. This is not good news here at the back for Slovenia. This is Jaka Marolt, he's gone. One of the Rwandan riders is also now distanced. This is Nyonkuru. Also the Spanish rider is dropped, and that is Fernandez. We're seeing more and more riders starting to feel the terrain and the tempo. Right on the back of the group, though, is Ravbar of Slovenia, as we pick him out, and style again of Tadej Pogačar as he goes round that corner. 76.2 kilometres to go.
Belgium might have lost a couple of riders. They're still just keeping the tempo high. They're not trying to drop riders. They're just trying to nullify attacks, just to keep it together. They don't want somebody to sneak a minute or 2 minutes up the road that they're not really that aware of, everyone's capabilities. So the safest way they want to race is just to keep that pace on the front really high. But if a rider of theirs gets dropped from Belgium, they just have to do their own hard work to get back and start helping again.
we're seeing riders who have mechanicals. It's problematic on this course.
Difficult course for team cars to get up very quickly, and the Shimano spares, they do an absolutely fabulous job at the World Championships every year. And here it's a little bit troublesome. If you do have a mechanical, it's not. I haven't seen a fast bike change or wheel change or anything from the mechanical assistants.
No, it's all been quite steady, and we're not saying they're doing a bad job. It's just that the time for the cars to come up is difficult. It's really, really tricky. We're coming up now to the end of this lap, and we will have 5 laps of racing to go. We'll see what the average speed is this time. It was 41.079 last time, and we had 65 riders left in the main bulk of the peloton. It looks to me like we're going to have less riders this time. In Italy, now starting to be, I guess, in the ascendancy towards the front. 2 hours and 10 minutes of racing have gone by, and yet again, Belgium lead as we go across the line. Camille Eamon is the rider, followed by Lorenzo Finn. The average speed drops a little bit, 44.002. So Italy now take over. Just taking a look at how many riders are left in the main bulk of the peloton. It looks like we've got 45 riders left now. Rochelle, we lost 20 riders on that lap. This is the point of the race where all your power, your fitness, all that training, all that heat adaptation has made a big difference.
Yeah, Belgium also lost one of their own riders as well in that pace that they were setting up the cobbles over there and really hurting, you know, so not only themselves, but what happens is they do push the pace over the cobbles and over that climb, and then they sit up like this and it all comes back together again. So but it has an effect, obviously, every time they're hurting so much the legs of the other riders.
There's a real tempo going on now. Still Belgium as they hand bottles out on the front of the race.
It's been an exciting race. All the media and hype and everything, it's all been about Belgium versus Italy, but it's been Belgium who's taken up the responsibility of keeping the pace high and doing all the work. So the Italians might be very, very happy about that, having, you know, protecting their rider in Lorenzo
Finn, junior world champion last year, and they've got also Alessandro Borgo. And when we look at that team, Rochelle, that Italian team, we talked about it a little while earlier today, that all their riders, Borgo rides for Bahrain Victorious, Simone Gualdi rides for Intermarché, Pietro Mattia rides for Wiesmann Lisa Bike, and Lorenzo Finn is a world champion last year and is in the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe rookies. It's not a bad team, is it?
No, it's and yeah, it's really exciting for such a young rider to be in a team where, you know, you're in the development program, you still get the opportunity to race in the under-23. You may have mentioned it earlier whilst I wasn't here that this is the first year that professionals in the World Tour and Pro Peloton can't race in the under-23. You have to make that choice if you're going to jump into the professional. If you do go into World Tour or professional, you can't race the under-23 World Championship anymore.
Yeah, and that's why when you look through the list of riders for the first time, you look and think, where are the big names? But they're all development riders. But most of them are starting to move. A lot of the top riders are starting to move into the World Tour next season, so that's their first opportunity in the World Tour. They may well have been invited in to ride a World Tour race or a higher level race, but they can't be in the World Tour team.
Yeah, they can't be signed a contract with a World Tour team. So, yeah, I think I actually think it's first of all, at first I thought it wasn't a great move, but now I think the UCI have done a great job in saying, okay, we have a junior category, we have an under-23 category, and we have an elite category at the World Championship. Now, in the case of Italy's former winner, in the juniors, he now has an opportunity to win the under-23, and then we'll go on to elite and maybe win an elite championship one day. So I think it's great that we don't get two races very similar with similar classed riders.
Yeah.
We have an under-23 and we have a professional.
I think it is a good situation. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about heat adaptation, because some of the I've seen some really interesting things on social media of some riders where they've done the heat adaptation training for this championship, and we've seen them wrapped in wearing extra layers and being in saunas and being out training in big white almost Hamza suits.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the riders that have targeted this World Championships have been in heat chambers. I'm not sure if they're scientifically advanced enough to completely acclimatise and provide that air quality, and which is something that a lot of the riders when they got here said it's just so hard to breathe, because they're in an altitude. They've been training in heat chambers at altitude at this level, but have they been able to experience the same type of air quality, which is what's kind of affecting a lot of the riders?
Yeah, and that's hard to do, isn't it? But why have they suddenly realised that you should be going out in these almost full suits and everything like that? Is that just literally to get your body temperature crazy high?
Well, I don't think that there's better ways, I think, that they can do their acclimatisation and heat training than going out on the bike in sumo sweat sauna suits.
But you used to train in a sauna, didn't you, in your career?
I have done.
You have trained in a sauna? In
acclimatisation periods, yes.
Yes. And did it work, or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a little bit. Yeah, if we spend 6 hours a day in a heat chamber in the month before a big event, it does have some effect. But, you know, in any sport and business and any aspect of life, there are so many different elements. So many. In cycling, you can do the heat chambers and you can do everything possible, but you can always get here and things are not exactly as you said.
You've done everything you can and then you might get caught out. You just never know. Just depends how you feel on the day. The Uruguay rider, number 60, is towards the back, Perez. So he's still in this group of riders, still riding well so far. We're heading now towards our next point on the horizon, which will be Kigali Golf again. It is stunning out here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't been too far out of Kigali, but Kigali have worked years and years on preparing for this World Championship, and the people and the place is just incredible. It's hard to describe. I actually had a message from Kate Bates, who is a sports cycling commentator, this morning. She asked me, is the atmosphere there as everyone is actually saying it is? And I wrote back, yeah, it supersedes what you read. You just can't comprehend it. I said, this is so amazing. They haven't missed a thing. They've covered everything here in Rwanda. So for us, and also probably for the riders and managers and the locals, it's an experience that will never be matched.
No, I agree with you. I think everyone keeps saying that, and I think it is safe to say a lot of people were thinking, oh, what is this going to be like? The organisation here is incredible. The setup's incredible. As I said yesterday, when you normally talk to team managers around a World Championship, they have all sorts of complaints, because team managers like to complain about something.
Yeah, no, everybody's very, very happy because everything's simple and they've got help everywhere. There's so many people walking around with a T-shirt that says, please ask me. If you have a question, ask me. And even if you don't ask the question, someone will come up and say, is there anything I can do for you?
Yeah.
So there are so many people here in Kigali who have, you know, donated their time to making sure everyone, from athletes, managers, staff, commentators, media, everybody is really, really well looked after who is visiting Rwanda. And, you know, they've done their job well, because I will be back in Rwanda because I want to meet more people, I want to see a lot more. And they're really, really, really nice people.
Yeah, I agree. And it would be nice to be able to go, because we've been working the entire time as we go past Kigali Golf Course. It'd be nice to go out and play 18 holes of golf, or go out into the mountains and see what. Today I talked a little while earlier about Remco Evenepoel saying he thinks he's just done the most beautiful lap of training he's ever done, and just go out and see or ride the gravel tracks or do that sort of thing, because it is it is beautiful. Go and see the gorillas, do that sort of thing out here in Rwanda.
Yeah, I was so, when I went to the official merchandising in the fan zone for the UCI, the gorillas, I haven't actually been back to it because I didn't have any money with me, but I've got a lot of friends that would really appreciate the gorilla with the UCI World Rainbow jersey on. It's awarded to the medalists when they're on the podium. They will obviously have a specific one that other people don't buy, but it would be, I think, it's a really cute little gorilla. But yeah, it would be great to go and experience the gorillas in the wild and do a safari. So yeah, it's been a wonderful time here so far in Belgium. They're all back, so they're all back together, just taking deep breaths. But I just wonder, Anthony, if they're playing a positive card for the Italians, that, you know, they're obviously very, very, very confident, and they've still got numbers there, so
I'm wondering whether this is a good tactic or not, and time will tell as to whether it is, because there are riders sitting in the wheels who, yes, they've got to suffer on the cobbles, yes, they've got to suffer on the other climbs, but the rest of the circuit, they're getting towed along. And we've got riders in here we can't forget who are incredible bike riders. Jakob Omrazel, for example, of Slovenia. We've got in here Hector Alvarez of Spain. We've got Jan Ueda behind his team. Maxime de Comble of France. He's in with a chance again this afternoon. But one of the riders who we haven't mentioned is Jakob Söderqvist. Haven't seen him all day. Rides for Sweden. Won the time trial the other day. An absolutely incredible bike rider. And I've been keeping an eye on him in this peloton. And he's just sitting in the wheels. He hasn't thought about being anywhere near the front. He's just sat in the midst of the group. Follows the wheels. Clearly feels good. And potentially could win this again as Belgium rip it up Kigali Golf yet again. And I can't believe this rider on the yellow bike on the left-hand side, Tim Rex, because he has literally been a one-man machine on the front, towing this group of riders along all day. And we're now at, what, nearly 100 kilometres, and I think he's ridden about 90, maybe 80k of it on the front himself, which is amazing.
I think he's just slipped back in on fourth wheel, maybe.
Yeah, he's gone now, which is not a surprise.
Yeah.
I think they've got to buy him dinner tonight.
That's a big, big effort. So, yeah, he'll call it a day now.
There he is. Finally, he's dropped. And he, for me, well, I don't know if he's dropped, actually.
No, he's still fighting.
He's
That's
like
incredible.
Wout van Aert, isn't he? Is he the next Wout van Aert?
That's incredible.
He is. He refuses to be dropped. Somehow he's staying in the wheels. I don't know how he's done it. He's some bike rider. If there was a most combative rider of the World Championships, he's the one. There he is, the legs.
He can't do it, and we can't fault him for that. A big 100 kilometres. What a powerhouse. He may have went further into the race than they might have given him a goal, try and get to 60 kilometres, and because I don't think the plan would have been, hey, just drive the pace for 100 kilometres.
Yeah, I'm just going to do 100k on the front, that'll do. T-Rex has gone. What a monster effort by him today. That's incredible. An amazing job. Now we're starting to see the pace really start to go up. We're over Kigali Golf for this time, and we're heading now towards Kimihurura, where we are going to head up the cobbles. Oh, now there's a surprise. Söderqvist has gone. Well, he hasn't been feeling great. I'm sorry to have mentioned him. I haven't mentioned him all day, and the first time I do, he's gone. The time trial world champion Söderqvist is dropped, and more riders are going out the back. Suddenly, look at this, the race has been ripped apart. Eritrea have lost 2 riders out of that group. Also dropped is Gomez of Spain. Also distances Ramos of Spain. And suddenly Eritrea lose their riders in Bahan and Makeli. And look, the next group of riders just up the road with another Eritrean in it. The thoughts and hopes of many riders have suddenly been absolutely blitzed by the acceleration of Belgium on that climb. There's a problem for one of the Belgian riders at the back, and Jan Ueda is at the front with 2 of his teammates. They look for ice. He decides he doesn't need it. Australia's still represented. Alvarez on the far right-hand side for Spain. He still looks good. Riders having to keep themselves cool, though. We keep seeing Lorenzo Finn, the Italian, Rochelle, just pouring water over himself constantly.
Yeah, it's at these World Championships, I've never ever seen all the team managers and team staff, and also even the Shimano support vehicles who are dedicated to supporting with mechanics. They need to fill their cars with water and ice. The amount of water and ice that people have needed around the hotel and out in the fan zones and stuff, it's just logistically, they just ice water everywhere, ice water, ice water. I've never seen so much in my life, but it's there. They've managed it because wherever you go, there's always water and ice.
That's good news. You need it, and we've seen them handing them out in those, wrapped in those tights, and just getting set, put them down your neck, let the water dribble down your back, keep core temperature as low as possible. Once it goes too high, then it's game over. Well, Soderquist was one of the race favourites. He's gone. Jonas Walton, the son of Brian Walton, is also now right at the back of the group. There is a chance it might come back together, but how bad are the legs after being dropped on that section? Because we're going to head our way now to the cobbles, and if the legs are bad right now, you don't have an awful lot of time to recover. That's another characteristic of this course, isn't it? That you... Between the two climbs, there's only 3 or so kilometres, and there's not much recovery time.
No, definitely a course where you do not have a time to just switch off and recover, because the roads are super smooth. That's really, really nice, but there's always a corner coming up. There's always a hill coming up. It happens so quick at race pace that on this circuit, there's nowhere you can really just switch off and relax. And you know, so when you get maybe those 10 seconds to take a deep breath, but there's not much more than that.
63 from Matti Moric, Lutsenko, Demar, Matthews, Sieghardt, Basso, Kurt Arzel-Arvesen, and so many others. Riders trying everything they can to just stay in the slipstream as this race continues.
We've seen it also with the women's junior and under 23 races, how it keeps coming back together. But you know that when the pressure's really on that final climb, that there's only a handful of riders that can manage the pace, but then they back off and it all comes back together. And you think, okay, it's back together, there's opportunities for other people, but when it comes to the climbs, they just can't match the power. So it's you know, riders are fighting all the time to get back on, but actually when the race comes down to the finale and the big moves made, there's only really a handful of riders here that can potentially win the World Championships on this circuit.
Onto the cobbles again. Having looked yesterday, I'm going to give you kudos for this. Because yesterday you weren't with me, but you messaged me about an hour into the women's race of Austria, who goes to the front and starts the pacemaking, and he's got rid of most of the Belgian riders with this acceleration. Jarno Wiedar is now isolated. That's good news for any of the other squads. Also up here is Lorenzo Finn, the Italian rider. The Slovenian rider Jakub Omrazel is here as well, number 29. Big move on the right-hand side as the Spanish rider makes his move. This is Hector Alvarez, who rides for the Lidl Trek Future Racing team. And Rochelle, what we were starting to talk about has now happened, because Jarno Wiedar has gone from an entire team with him a few minutes ago to no riders at all.
With just over 60 kilometres to go.
Yeah.
So this is so many riders in that peloton just sitting in there. Belgium is doing all the work. So they didn't even, you know, make the Italians contribute, who have a big favourite in Finn. So it was a big question. How is this race tactic going to work for Belgium? Now Finn is all alone, he's sitting on the front, he's driving it, but this is not a good thing.
No, it's not good news for Belgium. Suddenly this race has changed. Alvarez of Spain has gone clear with 61 kilometres to go. This rider is super, super talented. You cannot let him take any more of a distance, and Jarno Widar recognises that Alvarez is a rider you cannot give any sort of hope to. So Widar now starts to make the moves because he has to be the rider to respond for the first time. We've only got about 15 riders in that front group. Suddenly the race has completely exploded.
So what's happened is Belgium have used their teammates to keep the pace really, really high throughout this race. However, there's been so many athletes that have just been sitting in and protected and conserving their energy. And all of a sudden, in that one split moment, there's no Belgium other than Widar who can cover that move. And that's okay at the final of the race, in the final couple of laps. But when you're 60 kilometres out from the finish, if Widar has to cover every move himself with no teammates, it's going to make it a very difficult situation for him.
There's going to be some big questions asked if Belgium don't get a medal here. So it's Hector Alvarez. Coming up is the Italian rider, and that is Pietro Matteo, who's been really strong today. Widar is not prepared to close the gap on what's happening, and suddenly the hopes of Belgium are looking very much different to what they were a few minutes ago. In fact, less than 10 minutes ago, they were firmly in control. Lorenzo Fin is the Italian rider who jumps across. Italy have got all three, well, they've got at least three of their riders, if not four, in this front group. This is impressive. At the end of this lap, 2.5 hours of racing have been completed. The riders are coming up with 4 laps to go. The leading rider is Alvarez in the blue of Spain, followed by Schretzel of Austria, with Italy just closing the gap with Lorenzo Fin. Across the line this time, and it is hardly any riders left. Alvarez with an average speed of 41.082 kilometers an hour. The speed goes up. And at the front of the race, there's not that many riders left. There's 14 riders at the front.
Yes, this is a really... Really, that was an exciting moment of this race, a very decisive moment of this race.